Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. No walk on Wednesday today. You know what I was trying to get? I was trying to get Mark Donut.
Oh, what happened?
He couldn't do it. Mark Donut. Everybody's favorite man, because wherever you see him, you know you're about to get a donut. It's a nice legacy to leave behind. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, he was great. He'd always give me a donut. So I saw him at the wedding, and he says, it's great with social media and
what you were about to say. You were about to reveal that you asked him on Saturday at the wedding, and he said he couldn't do it, and then since then you still haven't gotten anyone. Is that what was about to happen? You hesitated.
Well, I never knew it was my job to get the walk on Wednesdays.
Really?
Yeah, it's just been assumed. I've never officially took that in my hands as my responsibility.
Mara, did he not take it? Don't act like you don't know. Tell the truth.
The real question is, Kaustubha.
Yes.
Did you release the horses from Central Park yesterday?
Oh, that's what
on that auspicious day.
I never agreed to do that.
Mara, I thought he agreed.
I never agreed to do that.
Let them free. Don't ride those coaches around Central Park. Let those horses free.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Mark Donut's going to be back. Those Prasadam donuts of New York that we all love. I remember his first day that he came to the temple. I was a brahmachari laying on a cot, and he stumbled in my room, and he had long hair. He started asking me questions about Krishna.
Well,
and I was like brand new.
You're talking about him, so you should let people know who he is and what his legacy is.
He owns this like incredible donut chain, which is Prasadam Donuts. And he started off in New York. Yeah, the donut plant. We got to give props. If you're in New York, it's become a devotee place of pilgrimage to go get a donut from this place. And it's huge. It's huge. It's all over the world now.
Yeah, I think.
Even Japan, in Korea. Where's Vishnu Priya? Vishnu Priya, right on the board if he's in South Korea, please. I know he's in Korea. Have you found those donuts, Vishnu Priya? That's the question. We should open donuts.
They're all prasadam.
It's called the Donut Plant, Vishnu Priya. Check that out. Google it. Donut Plant, Korea. He's there. Akiko says Japan for sure.
It's a whole family business, going back on, I think on the Lower East Side, but
no.
He's
from the South. He's from the South.
Maybe his grandparents or something like that were from the South. He started it on the Lower East Side. But, when you go in there, you see the picture of his, forefathers, working in the bakery there.
Bacon donuts.
And then, he transformed it into a devotional. And this is what Mara's vow was yesterday, right? That every donut that comes to the donut plant is offered to Lord Jagannath.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Have you been down in the basement and seen the altar?
Yes, I have. I have. He took me down there. He took me behind the scenes, walked me right down there, showed me the altar. Vishnu Priya says, yes, he's in Seoul. Okay, now you got a new hangout, Vishnu Priya. Mara, I think you might want to get into the Prasadam donut business. What do you think? I'd blow up. I'd blow up huge if you did.
They got one in Grand Central Station. If you go downstairs there's a donut
Yes,
plant
there's
there.
one in Grand Central Station,
They used to have one at the Chelsea Hotel,
which
but
was very
COVID
cool.
killed that.
Yeah, I know.
Nice one in Brooklyn. There's one in Long Island City. So they're all over
There's
the
one
city.
by the Temple in Brooklyn,
And
I
then,
think.
and of course, there's the original on Grand Street on Lower East Side.
Yeah. Well, enough about donuts.
All right, nuggets.
Let's talk about nuggets.
Or let's talk about announcements first, huh?
Let's talk about announcements, then nuggets, then the Srimad-Bhagavatam.
We've got Trevor Vaughn's asana class at 8 a.m. this morning for Patreon members, and Bhakti recovery group meetings at 1 and 9:30 p.m.
All right.
All right. So it seems like we got a little nugget from Narcissus and Goldmund.
Written by
Herman Hesse. It's Herman Hesse week.
That's right.
Next week's rock and roll week, then punk rock week, then hardcore week.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
some
like a lot
work.
of work for me to figure all that out, but I'll try.
You know, people can send them in.
All right.
Spiritual lyrics. That's a good. If you find some spiritual lyrics out there, you can send them in. That it makes it even more fun. Then we can
But
announce
the
who's
thing
sending
is
them
this, yeah, like don't go and pick like My Sweet Lord George Harrison or something like that. Like it should be something that wasn't specifically written about bhakti. But
Why?
that well then
Why?
we can why don't we just pick Narottam Das Thakur's songs or something like that? In other words, that's obvious, right? We want to
Because
see where like that the same kind of thinking is being reflected in other places. Why? Raghunath's upset. Because he was like, I want to bring in Boy George. He was just waiting for that day.
I really want to get Boy George on the show, by the way.
I just saw that he's performing at the Bhakti-yogi Manor.
What? This is my
Yeah.
chance. This is my in.
Yeah, as part of some kind of bigger thing. But yeah, he's performing at the Bhakti-yogi Manor.
Oh, I met this devotee, Sandeepan. He says he's going to hook me up with Russell Brand.
Okay.
I'm going to get Russell Brand on the show.
That'd be cool.
Okay,
Anyway,
let's get into this.
Narcissus and
Let's get into
Goldmund. This is. Do you know about that book? You know what it's all about?
I don't. Educate me, please.
It's about the Goldman is like the protagonist, and he's like I think his mother dies when he's young, and his father drops him off to be raised in like a monastery. And there's like a young monk there called Narcissus, and he's kind of training him up. But I think just like in Siddhartha, where there's kind of a balance between Govinda and Siddhartha, similarly, there's that kind of thing where Narcissus is like a thinker, and Goldman is more like an artist. And and it turns out, that Goldman wasn't born to be a monk, and Narcissus encourages him to go ahead and leave the monastery and find his way in life. And then he wanders, he has romances, he has battles, he digs into art, but it's a lot about his discovery about life on that journey. And then I believe they meet again towards the end of the book, and they share their thoughts about life. But what this nugget is, when there's a moment in the passage in the book where Narcissus is encouraging Goldman to leave the monastery, which Goldman is thinking like, why is he asking me to do this? It's like, normally the monks are trying to keep you there, and
Right.
And he's saying, no, you have a different path. Now this is, and he's describing his own path here. He says, what do you think my future is? And Goldman is saying, well, I guess you'll become like the head monk eventually, and you'll do good things around here. You'll rebuild a library, like those kind of things. But Narcissus answers it in a deeper way, like what he's meant to do with his life, and that's in this quote.
Here it is. Ready? My goal is this: always to put myself in the place in which I am best able to serve, wherever my gifts and qualities find the best soil to grow, the widest field of action. There is no other goal. Let me read that again.
Okay.
My goal is this: to always put myself in the place in which I am best able to serve, Wherever my gifts and qualities find the best soil to grow, the widest field of action, there is no other goal. Wow.
Speak to me on this, Reg. What do you think?
To me, this is, it's one of those, when we've given up our personal desire, or our personal ambition, material ambition, and we just say, Krishna, what do you want me to do with my life? What do you want from me? Where will I be of best service? And sometimes that might be in a beautiful place. It might be in a farm. It might be in a city. It might be a place that you sort of don't want to go, but you're going there because sort of you feel like divine force is drawing you there. And for me, I think that's the highest thing. And you hear about people all the time putting themselves in a difficult situation, difficult environment, but they realize this is where I'm the most effective. And I feel like that's the highest dharma. You're not just doing, well, I like it here because it's a beach and I like beaches, and I like or I like it here because it's a farm, or I like the city and I want to be in the city. You're going, well, this is your calling. This is where you can be most effective. I feel like that's like the highest prayer, where it's no longer got anything to do with, my personal desire, but you find our desire in finding our higher calling's desire, and that makes everything okay.
Yeah, it's a, I think, I don't know if humans in general, or maybe Americans modern day, especially due to influence of media and all, I'm not sure. I would imagine in the past, if you go back in the distant past, maybe in general, people were more inclined to just kind of follow a path that's already laid out, by their family and so on, like you get trained to do what your parents do, and you kind of, whereas I think, the media, that there's so much exposure in media to different ideas that we lock in our mind some attractive idea of what we could be, and we, struggle to become that, both in terms of of what we do, like say our occupation or career, but even just in terms of our own personality, the costumes that we wear, But here's an idea that's very different. It's like, there's something that I want to serve, and any way that I can serve it. And, I find bhakti has to go here too, at a certain point of maturity. And when you have a group of people that all think like this, they can cooperate on such a powerful level. This person can do, like, for instance, we were talking about that kirtan that we were at the other day in the park.
Washington Square Park.
In Washington Square Park. And you can see, wow, some of these devotees, they're just incredibly talented musicians, And one could think, oh, why am I not one of them, and begin to feel an inner tension, and, or one could say that's their service and it's absolutely beautiful, it's like, and they're doing it. And that may be my way to contribute, or maybe in my way to contribute is just to sit here and sing along and respond to their singing, and maybe, I won't be on the center stage, but in whatever, the joy is in whatever way that I can serve, and however I can find that service. So I think it's a beautiful statement in the book. To me, it kind of reminds me of that verse in Bhagavad Gita. You know what verse I'm thinking
of? Do your duty. What is it? The one,
and not someone else's.
Yeah,
it is better to do your own duty,
your own duty.
Faultily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're thinking of?
Close. I was thinking of the one where in the 11th chapter. Now does that help?
No.
11th chapter where Arjuna is shown the universal form.
Yeah.
And he's just watched the fate of everyone on the battlefield. He's just watched time eat up all of the warriors, right? Sure. So he's standing on a battlefield, about to enter a battle, and Krishna shows him a vision of everyone dying on the battlefield, right? And then he says to Arjuna prepare to fight. He says, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. He says, they are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachin, can be but an instrument in the fight. And if we take away, I know that potentially this can be seen as dangerous, and there's religious ideas about war and so on. But, there's a much broader message here, right?
Sure.
That in some ways, a deep thinker, is thinking much more broadly, thinking, like accepting fate and playing and just playing their role. Now in this verse, Krishna calls Arjuna. Do you know what the name that he calls Arjuna?
Sabyasachi.
Yeah, Savyasachin. Yeah, which means
He can fight. He's what's it called? Ambidextrous.
it means he's ambidextrous. Yeah, I think Savya means left. Like it means he can shoot left-handed, right-handed. It's like, yeah, he can.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like really good in a bow and arrow, it's like, people play the violin one way. Imagine if you can just switch it and play the other way. That's like a whole nother type of brain. So
Yeah.
same with shooting a bow and arrow or batting baseball left and right-handed. So Arjuna had the ability that he could fight with both hands.
Yeah, he was by birth. He had this ability, and then he honed that. Through thousands of hours of practice. So he was the one to play this role, right? Like Krishna is saying, this is going to happen, and you could play a role in it. I like always these analogies of instruments are interesting. Like you just use an instrument analogy, right?
Well, I saw a guy in Central Park play violin. It was pretty good because I played the violin. It was very impressive. And he was sort of like a crazy homeless guy. And then he just switched. He was like homeless, except he had a violin. And then he switched and he just started playing left-handed. I was like, this is incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite impressive.
But one thing I try to think about, this is something like particularly in terms of relationships. Like sometimes I see someone, that feeling when you see someone and in your heart you're not really happy to see them.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, but it certainly happens, right? And when I think of that, I try to think of the Paramatma, or I try to think of some great souls, some great devotees that I really admire. And I think, how does their heart feel when they see this person? Like I have a history with this person that in my mind, my tiny little mind, that history is very significant, and it's kind of colored my emotions in terms of my relationship with this person, right? But when this other devotee sees them, they feel nothing but joy. Or when Krishna, sees them, they feel joy and love. Now, my goal is to align my heart with theirs. You understand? Like, align my heart with that great devotee, or align my heart with the Paramatma. Rather than I sit out here on this island of malice, right? Try to align.
The island of malice.
We're island of malice from, I don't know,
Alita.
from some island. But that's how I try to gradually, I don't know, reshape my mind, reshape my heart, melt away all that's not necessary or that's not conducive. Try to think of the heart of these more advanced devotees and try to align your heart with theirs. Then you have to let go of your animosity. And so like it's almost like an instrument. Like it's like, if the instrument's out of tune, it doesn't very smoothly fit into the band. You know what I'm saying? So like, even you may have talents, you may have skills, you may have aptitudes, abilities. If your heart isn't in the right place, it's like you're out of tune with the Vaishnavas, you're out of tune with the Bhakti-yogis. And you have to try to get yourself in tune. Like a great master musician might even be able to play something that's out of tune and do well with it. And maybe that's what like my life has been so far, right? It's like I'm not quite in tune, but I've been fortunate that some devotees have come along and engaged me in some way or another. But what if we were in tune, right? What if we were perfectly in tune? Then you could play the most beautiful music,
If you're having a hard time understanding this analogy, you can think of if you know people, or if you're a person that, like what Kaustubha was saying, you see some person come in the room and you don't feel happy to see them. There's a lot of people in the course of the day that we're not happy to see. Like, I always make that joke. Like if you wake up in the morning at 10 o'clock, you see some jerk. And then around noon, you see some jerk. And then at 3 o'clock, it's like, what's going on? I'm seeing another jerk today coming into after the third person, you might be the jerk. Like
if you're seeing problematic people wherever you go, you might be the person with the problem.
It's
So
possible.
when we take that to the extreme situation, like once in a while, I see somebody I'm not happy with. Kaustubha's saying, like, I'm owning this. This is my issue. Whatever they are, I've got some issues that I can't see with some higher vision.
Yeah.
And that's that big ask that we get when we sign up for our spiritual life. We're all here in the morning at 6 a.m, and we're trying to sign. It's the big ask. We have to be bigger than this pettiness of the material world where this, I'm right, they're wrong. Why would they do things like that? How dare they? And see through, see through the sin, hate the sin and not the sinner. What to speak of, oftentimes I have some responsibility in how I view them also. It's not necessarily what they're doing. It's just how I'm viewing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine like the animosity that we feel to different people, even though we have our justification for it, our rationalization for it, probably in the majority of the times it's really either it's petty or it's totally wrong. It's like,
yeah, it's totally off base. And the person just isn't stroking my ego. This person doesn't endorse me how I want them to endorse me. They don't fully appreciate my greatness yet.
Yeah. And for the person that's like deeply spiritual, they don't need that. They don't need that from the person.
Right.
Even if it's neglected by that person, it doesn't matter to them. They're perfectly well situated. They're stable, And so they're bearing. So we need to align our hearts with those people. It means, in other words, if I was sitting next to a great sage and they said, "Oh, I'm so happy to see this person, aren't you?" And then if I were to answer honestly, like, "No, that guy's kind of a jerk. He did this to me. He did that." And I remember one time I said this and he said that in response. And, it would all be so pet. I need to align my heart with that other souls. And that's because they're seeing the world from a higher platform of spiritual understanding. The petty things don't mean anything to them. They're not offended by things. And they can always see that spirit within. They can see that soul within. That's what they're relating to on the spiritual level.
This is our psychic surgery we were talking about yesterday. We are noticing, like, if I have resentment and anger towards somebody, that is like a burden I'm carrying around. And if we're completely unaware of it, like and checking our head, like you just were mentioning, we got to check my head. I got some issues here. Then if we're not even aware of that, then we start collecting lists of people I have issues with, and life becomes an incredible burden. That's why we say immediately and completely we have to uproot those resentments, or else it just ruins our life. We carry so much anger and hate around with us, and it's nice to go through people that you do find problematic in your life and you're still holding on to, and like work those out so you're not carrying any more resentments. It's these things that we have to have really clear in our heart, not just to have a happy life, but so we can transition out of this body at the most crucial time when we're leaving our body. I don't want any resentment towards anyone, and in the people that have so-called wronged me, I want to see how they were put there by Krishna for me to upgrade my vision.
Bhagavatam has so much to say on these things, such incredible examples that are there for us to really, allow our mind to marinate in their example and in their words. I'm part of this Oxford study program.
Professor.
I've been really fortunate to be part of this. It's just started, but this group of scholars, devotee scholars at Oxford, or part of, this program is set up from the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, which is all Bhakti-yogis, and these Bhakti-yogi professors have all, they provide you like a lot of reading to do, and then you all get together and you discuss it. And so,
wearing monocles.
I wear a monocle when I do it. Yes, that's. Yeah, I don't know if you have a problem with that, but So anyway, this week it's all about Bhagavatam, right? All the different readings they give. It's like a lot of reading to do every day. You got to read, 30 pages or so. But this is all about Bhagavatam. And it was talking about Prahlad, who we're going to come up to in the 7th canto. Such an important figure in Bhagavatam. And it was talking about Prahlad is showing the method of spiritual transformation. And so much of it has to do with hearing Bhagavatam itself. Like through the process of hearing, one transforms. And one can develop like this deepest compassion. Like you can see Prahlad, he was abused, right? He was abused.
Yeah.
But even
couldn't get more abused than Prahlad, pretty much.
Yeah. But in the end, he had nothing but compassion for everyone as well as for his own abuser. Now in our, again, it's interesting. We must be getting older, Raghunath, because it's like I can feel like different errors of attitudes, and currently, you can see, I see like the political polarity beginning to enter more prominently within the spiritual discussions. Okay? So that when it comes to discussing spirituality, now political ideas are it's judged through a political lens. So ideas like, for instance, seeing the good in everyone, or even the idea of like a spiritual practice that is somewhat done in a sense of solitude, will be identified as dangerous because you're not engaged in countering injustices in the world. Right. Or if you're to look at the world and say it's all temporary, well, that's a dangerous idea.
They say you're compliant.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like that's a dangerous idea. Because who's going to stop the suffering? And I get the concern, for sure. But maybe if you go a little bit more deeply, you can see that the most genuine compassion will be born out of this kind of introspection, right? And sometimes the people that are apparently fighting against the injustices, they may embody the same kind of hatred
exactly.
that created the injustice.
Exactly.
Right. And so they haven't actually done this, although they're claiming to be spiritual. They may not have done the spiritual work that the person that they're criticizing is involved in doing, that the most genuine compassion will develop out of. Right, the deep, real compassion, not just words of compassion, but meanwhile it's manifesting as anger and hatred.
It's fighting hate with hate. It's not. Yeah. It's a no-win game. You think and it just manifests in ego.
Right. Yeah, or these ideas like take everything as a blessing. Oh, that's a dangerous idea. Because that's going to justify. You're just telling the victim, hey, make the best out of it. But the fact is that's where so much of the deepest spiritual realization comes from. They'll say, oh, that's gaslighting. And, the term gaslighting is thrown around like crazy. Just the term gaslighting can practically be used to deny any kind of introspection. Like maybe there's something within me that has to change.
Right.
Like if you suggest that to anyone, you're gaslighting.
You're shifting. Yeah. You're shifting the responsibility.
Yeah. Yes. But
I was accused of that also. I was accused of that.
Almost anyone can be accused of it if they're sharing like spiritual wisdom at this point, I know. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm not saying that there aren't manipulative people out there. And I'm not saying that those concerns for social justice aren't very real and very important. But I'm saying let's be careful and not just judge, what does it mean to be spiritual? How can you accept that people are walking on different paths, and even though they might be focused in this particular way right now, it may manifest in a very deep and beautiful way. And if there's a person in this world, if there's one person in this world and they decide, I want to root out all violence, I want to root out all animosity from my mind and heart, well, can't we just appreciate that itself, And perhaps that person is going deeper than you have. And perhaps in the future, it may manifest in an incredibly powerful way, in ways that your anger and your bitterness will never accomplish anything positive. Will just increase the
tension, the turmoil, the nastiness of the material world.
Yeah. You take a Nelson Mandela who's thrown in prison, unjustly.
Sure.
Right. but he comes out of that prison with deeper spiritual realizations. You know, he saw the good in it. Like he took it as a blessing, you know. And if you suggest that other people do that, well, now you're supporting the oppressor. No, it's not like that. Let's go a little deeper. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate the concern for social justice, but let's try to take it deeper. And particularly when you bring it into spiritual circles, you just start throwing around all this political talk. Maybe you haven't even gone very deeply into spirituality. You don't even understand it.
Sure. If you don't post about something immediately as soon as you hear it on the news, you're compliant, or you've got your head in the sand, or you're not doing your duty. Maybe I'm just thinking deeply about it. Right. Maybe I'm just thinking about it, because nothing's generally black and white. There's so many different angles to look for. Do I even know the entire story?
Have I even deeply felt it? You know, have I even deeply felt it, you know, and understood it, you know?
Yeah.
It's easy to just post something and feel self-righteous about it, but and you know, again, I don't want to minimize that kind of concern. It's very important, but let's be careful about how we judge others. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll start it with a little Herman Hesse week around here.
Herman Hesse week. Someone said we should do Okay. Who said someone? Caitlin.
That was way back.
Caitlin said we should do boy bands. We should do spiritual boy bands.
I might have trouble. Like, we'll need.
You know what? We're gonna need people to send in quotes to wisdom. What's our email address? wisdomsages108@gmail.com. Mara, can you put those in a folder, Mara, and we can read them next week?
Sure.
We're gonna have punk. We're gonna punk and hardcore, rock and roll, and then any other type of music.
Boy bands.
So you guys got to put it in the category. Punk and hardcore. That's one category. Rock and roll.
But punk and hardcore is now one category.
Yeah, that's one category.
Okay, I thought you had it as separate categories.
No, they'll have them as one category.
Unless we get enough for both two categories.
Rock and roll. We'll have listen, Kaustubha, hear me out. We'll have rock and roll week. Okay, rock and roll. That's like anything from
classic rock.
Classic rock, yeah. And then we'll have punk and hardcore, and then we'll have any other stuff.
Okay.
What do you say?
Can we go back to like the 20s?
Write it in. People can go back to whatever they want, but it's anything else. So listen, people, send it to Mara. Make sure you put it in a particular category. Me and Kaustubha don't know anything about music from the 30s or 40s, or I don't even know about classic rock very well, but you can send in your favorite boy band or a dance band, or I might even send some 80s dance bands.
Okay.
Maybe
we should just do something like Kansas Week or something like that, or Rush. Like they play around with like, you know, those kind of concepts, right?
All right, I'll go there.
Kansas Week.
Yeah.
Dust in the wind, a little dust in the wind there.
Yeah. How about little Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
Blowing in the wind.
Okay.
Blowing in the wind.
Let's get
day
to the
by
Bible.
day. The Carpenters.
Karuna just wrote, can we just have a normal Srimad-Bhagavatam week?
Thank you, Karuna.
Okay, right now, thank you for that reminder.
You have a new chapter, Karuna. Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes I do also.
Okay.
Narayanam namaskritya dhanam chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya, bhagavati utamashloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Chapter 17, Canto 4, Text 1.
Yeah, maybe I can share a little context with this.
We should have a hip-hop week.
Why don't we discuss a little Bhagavatam right now?
Yeah, a little Bhagavatam hip-hop. Okay, ready?
No, I was just going to say, why don't we give this a little context? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, stop reading the chat board. Listen to me. I'm going to talk to you, Raghunath.
I'm looking right at the board. I'm looking right at the Bhagavatam, sir.
Are you? Okay.
Accuser?
So this chapter, it's a little unusual. It's referring back to a Vedic idea, right? And when I say Vedic, I mean going back to the 4 Vedas. That there's considered a way that there's a harmony between like the living beings with the devas, with the gods, right? And that the whole system is operating ultimately under Krishna's direction. But that the people for their own well-being and for their own betterment, they're meant to recognize the gifts they receive from the gods, whether it be rain or sun, or in this case, it'll be the earth providing grains and food, right? Yeah. And so there's a system of cooperation where the humans express their gratitude through rituals, or acts of sacrifice through ritual. And then the gods respond. And the gods will hold back if those expressions aren't made as a way of, in a sense, it's like a training, right? It's like training one not to be callous and, cold and ignorant, but it's training one to appreciate nature and all that it's providing and develop within the heart a sense of gratitude, which will be very conducive for one's spiritual development. So it's almost like we're little children, and the gods are like the parents, in the story, and they're trying to show a little gratitude, and then you'll get you'll get all that you need to be happy in this world. Now, in this case, though, the king is meant to kind of regulate that. The king is meant to make sure that the kingdom is developing that ritualistic system and developing those kind of sentiments of gratitude, right? And he's meant to arrange everything. He's meant to make sure that the proper teachers are in place so that message will get across. And he's, meant to help in any way he can to make that all work smoothly. And so therefore, if there is drought or if there is flooding or something like that, in one sense, the responsibility lies on the king that, hey, apparently you haven't set everything up right here so that nature is responding in a way that's more satisfactory, But and so now Maharaj Prithu has just been enthroned, and he's coming out of an era where
I like that.
There was a bad king, right? And the whole system kind of broke down, and the earth is not providing right now, right? Like the earth is not providing enough food. Now the citizens are going to come to the king, and they're going to say, hey, we're actually, now that Vain is gone, we are actually stepping forward and doing the ritual and doing everything right, but we're going hungry. And so now this king is so powerful, right? He's a Shaktivesha avatar. He's like a representative of God. He's got God's power working through him. And so he's going to step up and he's going to actually correct the earth, right? And say, hey, they're doing their part. Now you have to do your part. And he's going to do it with great ferocity. The earth is going to be scared, and Mother Earth is going to take the form of a cow, because she's like, well, you can't kill a cow, right? And then there'll be an exchange between the two of them.
Okay.
You like that strategy?
Yeah, it's like you. It's like those cartoons. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you?
It's kind of like that.
We grew up in the same cartoon era, you and me. Okay, text 1. The great sage Maitreya continued. In this way, the reciters who were glorifying Maharaj Prithu readily described his qualities and chivalrous activities. At the end, Maharaj Prithu offered them various presentations with all due respect and worshiped them adequately.
So he didn't just take the compliments, he returned them as well.
Yeah. King Prithu, thus satisfied, and offered all respect to all the leaders of the Brahmins and other castes, to his servants, to his ministers, and to the priests, citizens, general countrymen, people from other communities, admirers, and others. And thus they all became happy. Just pleasant dealings.
Very good.
Vidura inquired from the great sage Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, since Mother Earth can appear in different shapes, Why did she take the shape of a cow? And
That had been
when
mentioned earlier.
right? And when King Prithu milked her, who became the calf? And what was the milking pot? What?
Fill me in. Explain this analogy.
Explain this. What does it mean, the earth? The earth itself, the deity of the earth, like separate than the globe, becomes a cow, right? It doesn't
The
mean
god,
like
the goddess of the earth.
Earth changes shape from a sphere into a cow.
No, yeah, not that. It meant the goddess of, the earth goddess.
Earth goddess, okay.
Mother Boomy, she's called.
Mother Boomy. Boom Boomy. Be a good name.
Keep going, Raghu.
The surface of the earth is by nature low in some places and high in others. How did King Prithu level the surface of the earth? And why did the king of heaven, Indra, steal the horse meant for the sacrifice? Okay, we're about to get into that story. The great saintly king Maharaj Prithu received knowledge from Sanat Kumar, who is the greatest Vedic scholar, right? He was one of the 4 Kumars, those little children sages.
And the originator of the Kumara Sampradaya, right? The lineage coming down from. So in the commentary, Prabhupada's going to mention, you see, Maharaj Prithu didn't just go to any. He came to someone that was in the authorized Sampradaya, representing, handing down the knowledge unchanged.
After receiving knowledge to be applied practically in his life, how did the saintly king attain his desired destination? Prithu Maharaj was a powerful incarnation of the Lord's potencies. Consequently, any narration concerning his activities is surely very pleasing to hear, and it produces all good fortune. As far as I'm concerned, I'm always your devotee, as well as the devotee of the Lord, who is known as Adhoksaja. Please, therefore, narrate all the stories of King Prithu, who, in the form of the son of King Vena, milked the cow-shaped earth. Mara, what does Adhoksaja mean?
Knew you were gonna ask me that, and I don't know the answer.
Adhoksaja. Actually, I'm not even sure. Adhoksaja, it means does that mean he's faultless? Adhoksaja?
Yeah, Adhoksaja. I'm forgetting that. Somehow it's slipped my mind, but Adhoksaja.
Okay, so somebody put it on the board. We must have
I
some.
think you're supposed
Does
to
it
know
mean
the
that
answer
he's-
if you hot seat me.
Does he mean that he's glorified with beautiful poetry or something like that?
Inconceivable, Shama says. Thank you. We're going to accept you as the authority. Shama.
Adhoksaja.
Cannot be seen by the mind or senses, says Nityananda Chandra. Nancy R says, beyond the perception of material senses.
Transcendental.
Okay.
Beyond
They
the purview
stumped
of the material senses. Yeah.
They stumped the stumpers.
All right. They got us that time.
Okay, you got us. 1 point Zoomers.
Keep going, Raghu.
What number are we on?
8.
What's that? 8?
8.
Sudha Goswami continued. When Vidura became inspired to hear the activities of Lord Krishna in his various incarnations, Maitreya, also being inspired and very pleased with Vidura, began to praise him. Then Maitreya spoke as follows. My dear Vidura, at that time, King Prithu was enthroned by the great sages and brahmanas and declared to be the protector of the citizens, as there was such scarcity of food and grains. The citizens actually became skinny due to starvation. Therefore, they came before the king and informed him of their real situation. Dear king, just as a tree with a fire burning in the hollow of a trunk gradually dries up, we are drying up due to the fire of hunger in our stomachs. You are the protector of surrendered souls, and you have been appointed to give employment to us. Therefore, we have all come to you for protection. You are not only a king, but the incarnation of God as well. Indeed, you are the king of all kings. You can give us all kinds of occupational engagements, for you are the master of our livelihood. Therefore, O King of Kings, please arrange to satisfy our hunger by the proper distribution of food, grains. Please take care of us, lest we die for want of food. After hearing this lamentation and seeing the pitiable condition of the citizens, King Prithu contemplated this matter for a long time to see if he could find any underlying causes. Having arrived at a conclusion, the king took up his bow and arrow and aimed it at the earth exactly like Lord Shiva, who destroys the whole world out of anger. Oh, I'm yawning today. Woo! Having arrived at a conclusion, after hearing this lamentation and seeing the after hearing this lamentation and seeing the pitiable condition of the citizens, King Prithu.
I think you are on 14. I think you already read that.
Did I skip that? All right, sorry. I yawned. I moved the screen. I got thrown off. Forgive me. When the earth saw that King Prithu was taking up his bow and arrow to kill her, she became very much afraid and began to tremble. She then began to flee exactly like a deer, which runs swiftly when followed by a hunter. Being afraid of King Prithu, she took the shape of a cow and began to run. Seeing this, Maharaj Prithu became very angry, and his eyes became as red as the early morning sun. Placing an arrow on his bow, he chased the cow-shaped earth wherever she would run. The cow-shaped earth ran here and there in outer space between the heavenly planets and the earth, and wherever she ran, the king chased her with the bow and arrows. Just as a man cannot escape the cruel hands of death, this cow-shaped earth could not escape the hands of the son of Vena. At length, the earth, fearful, her heart aggrieved, turned back in helplessness. Addressing that great king, Prithu, as the knower of Dharma and shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of living entities. Now you are situated as the king of the planet." The cow-shaped earth continued to appeal to the king. "I am very poor, and I have not committed any sinful activities. I do not know why you want to kill me. Since you are supposed to be the knower of all Dharma, why are you so envious of me? And why are you so anxious to kill a lady? Even if a woman commits some sinful activity, no one should place his hand upon her. And what to speak of you, dear king, who are so merciful? You are a protector, and you are affectionate to the poor." The cow-shaped earth continued. "My dear king, I am just like a strong boat, and all the paraphernalia of the world is standing upon me. If you break me to pieces, how can you protect yourself and the subjects from drowning?" King Prithu replied to the earthly planet, "My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share of the yajnas we performed, but in return, you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason, I must kill you." What the heck is going on, Kaustubha?
What do you mean? Oh, I told you what was going on.
No, I know.
So
but it's
she's not.
It's like a Marvel Comics.
Yeah, she's not holding up her part of the dharmic agreement, the system, the natural system, natural order.
Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bag so we can utilize the milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. You have so lost your intelligence that despite my orders, you do not deliver the seeds and the herbs and the grains formerly created by Brahma and now hidden within yourself. Now, with help of my arrows, I shall cut you to pieces. With your flesh, satisfy the hunger-stricken citizens who are now crying for the want of grains. Thus I shall satisfy the crying citizens of my kingdom. Any cruel person, be he a man, woman, or impotent eunuch, who is only interested in his personal maintenance and has no compassion for other living entities, may be killed by the king. Such killing can never be considered actual killing.
This is really interesting. It's something I've noticed here and I've noticed in other places. This is interesting where Bhagavatam enters into the current realm of social conversation, right? But he says, be he a man, woman, or impotent eunuch, right? Here the word eunuch is kilbaha. My point is, the way that eunuch is used here, it may be a little different than that. But in other words, it's saying what it's saying is that there are two common genders, and then there's a third category, right? Like there's another verse. Oh yeah, I pulled it up earlier. This is a verse from later in the 4th canto, chapter 28, text 61. Very fast. I read this once on one of the question and answer days, and it's a verse where the Paramatma is speaking to the soul, right? It's from the Purunjan story, so it's an allegory. But within this allegory, the story goes that that Purunjan has gone through many different births. This king has gone through many different births. And in the particular birth he's in now, he's become a woman. And her husband has just died. And she's standing at the funeral pyre. And then the Paramatma, God within the heart, comes to her, right? So the idea is Paramatma travels with us through all our different lives and deaths, travels with us through all our different bodies that we inhabit, all the different roles that we play. And so the Paramatma approaches her and says, don't you remember me? I'm your old friend. We're very far from our home. And we're meant to go back there. Do you remember me? I've gone with you through so many different stages. And then the Paramatma says this. Paramatma says, sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a natural eunuch. In other words, you've been through many different births, right, in many different bodies, and I've been with you all along. But this term natural eunuch is like, Prabhupada says it like that here, natural eunuch. In other words, it means a third gender category, right? And so, like, although the Bhagavatam's not saying that, like, there's unlimited genders or it's totally fluid or anything, it is saying that it's beyond the binary idea, right? That commonly there are two genders, but there are also there's a third category, and it's very intentionally stating it, right? It's stating it in both these verses, and I imagine in other verses as well. Anyway, just a little side note. You may be totally bored by it.
Bhagavatam, walking the line
like,
right in between.
huh?
Bhagavatam walks that line right in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's time, Prabhu.
Oh.
Ooh, it's time. What you got for us, Mara?
I got some good
Mara,
takeaways.
did you learn anything relevant from the show today?
I did. I got a lot for people to take home and put in their pocket.
You gonna put in your pocket?
Of course, Prabhu.
Okay. Let's hear what you got.
All right. Put yourself in the place where you can serve best.
Yeah.
Turn your ambition over to Krishna.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're most effective in a difficult environment.
Sometimes you feel like a nut.
That's the second day in a row I think you did that.
Just
No.
like you said that yesterday, too.
Anytime we say sometimes, are you going to do that now? Like, are we able to use that word anymore?
You can't use sometimes.
Have to remember
It's
that.
amazing what gets stored in your brain over decades.
It's true.
I wish I grew up in an ashram, like a little child.
Align your heart with great devotees to release animosity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Be bigger than the pettiness of the material world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Immediately and completely uproot resentments.
Ooh.
Powerful.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Powerful.
The most genuine compassion is grown out of deep introspection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
And appreciate those who are uprooting hate within.
There you go. Well, what about you might be the jerk? What about that one?
That's
You
true.
might be the jerk. You might be the jerk. Nothing from Matt Godin today. It was for Matt. Make me laugh, Chester.
Come on.
Thanks everybody for joining us. What a day. What a beautiful way to start the day, hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's you take a bath for your body, then you take a bath for the mind. That's what I feel like just happened. You bathe my mind in sacred wisdoms. Kaustubha, thank you very much.
You do the same for me, Raghunath.
I owe you a bath now.
You can keep the bath. I'm fine. Thank you.
We tackle each other, roll down the hill, squirting each other with a hose, laughing amongst ourselves.
He's gone
Thanks,
to that
everybody.
homoerotic place again, Mara. I don't know why. Occasionally,
Love
it
is
just
love,
comes to the
Kaustubha.
surface.
Love is
you know?
love.
Okay.
So, keep the bath. That's a hashtag. There we go.
Keep the bath.
Keep the bath.
This is a bath. It's a really bath. You feel like you feeling like all weird in the mind. You read the Bhagavatam, you read the Bhagavad Gita, you feel like you took a bath in the mind.
Straightens you out.
Really true. Really true.
Cleans
Screwed
you
your
out.
head on straight.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. If you like what we're doing, Wisdom of the Sages, go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. show us some support. We are, we have no sweet baby Krishna today. We got to figure it out. We're going to do it this week. Maybe Thursday, Mara.
Okay, great.
My internet is unstable.
By the way, we started plans. You know, we initiated a new thing for yesterday for the Akshaya Tritiya.
Yeah.
And
The
it's-
releasing of the horses.
Not the releasing of the horses, but we initiated an idea to really expand our care for listeners and to really, I was going to say beef up Patreon, but maybe I should use another term. But to really like provide a lot more courses, classes, opportunities. Something very dynamic coming.